Ninjago as a franchise debatably has one of its best parts being not the show itself. It is actually going to be the community, because it's full of such an amazing array of people and I have such a pleasure in being a part of it. Except for you. I'm looking at you. I don't like you. But all jokes aside, I absolutely love the Ninjago community, and the Ninjago community is the spawn point of a lot of different interesting concepts, and I think one of them in particular is the concept of the headcanon, because it shows an aspect of Ninjago that someone can just believe by what the Ninjago show actually gives us, because sometimes it doesn't have to be based in reality, sometimes it's just a comfort thing, sometimes it's just an interesting little implication, but overall, headcanons are possibly the best thing we get to see. And I have got a series where I talk about things like this, and specifically headcanons, and it's actually been a couple months since I've done one of these videos, so I'm looking forward to getting back into it. And of course, with season 3 just being released, I'm hoping a whole load of new headcanons have now arisen from that season itself. But for now, let me take a look at the ones that we had from the last time I did this video. Because yes, if you are not aware, I like to do a lot of community driven videos. I absolutely adore them. They are some of my favorites, because you guys have so many interesting things to say, and I love reading them, I love theorizing with you guys, I love creating that discussion, and again, it's one of the reasons the Ninjago community is amazing. So let's see what your guys' headcanons are, and if you have any more of your own, or if you have a new concept you want to bring forward, definitely leave it in the comments, and I will hopefully get to yours for the next video. But other than that, let's talk about some headcanons. And the first one is coming from Shabalubla? I think it's a big habit that I don't get these names correct. But hello my friend, how are you? And you said, one of my headcanons is that from season 4 to 9, we are actually watching the show through the Overlord's eyes, as he's trying to find out what works against the ninja. For example, he made a floating crystal island because he saw how hard it was for the ninja to get to a floating base in season 6. He created a team of villains because of Day of the Departed. He used Venshone as he saw how useful it was against the ninja. And honestly, I definitely think you are onto something here. Of course, canonically speaking, I'm fairly certain the implication is that the Overlord sleeps until he actually does get to re-arise because of the rise of darkness in the land of Ninjago. But the thing is that there's no implication that he's not at least aware of what happens, because there seems to be a level of he knows what's happening, he knows these different aspects, he definitely has some sort of element to him. I will say though, I do think this extends past season 9. I personally believe if the Overlord is watching the ninja, I think to an extent he is watching them throughout the entirety of season 4 through till the events of Crystallized, because of course we are confirmed that just after Harumi's death in season 9, the Overlord does resurrect her. So I have to definitely assume at the very least that the Overlord was watching the ninja from season 10 through till season 15, but it's one of those things where, to what extent? And there are definitely more examples from those later seasons that you could apply, because of course during the Wild Brain era the ninja have a lot more vehicles, which the Overlord has his island be able to counter those vehicles. There are also other aspects in terms of the sheer quantity. He knows that the ninja do get overwhelmed because of the Reawakened in season 13. It's one of those ones where he does take those little aspects and he does apply it. So I definitely think you're onto something here. I'm curious to see to what extent. I'm curious if there's any more examples we're not aware of, but all the examples you said are definitely right, and I do think the ones I've just mentioned are also correct. So thank you for your comment, my friend. The second headcanon is going to be coming from Trackmaster the Railfan. Hello, my friend. And you said, I have a headcanon that the reason the ninja haven't heard of elemental powers such as Soras or Geos is because that doing the merge, some people died. So that people that previously had those elemental powers that were in different realms, so the elemental powers went to new people such as Sora and Geo. And I do think you may be onto something here, but I think it's slightly different to that. I do think to an extent this is correct. There has to be the concept of elemental power in other realms, because Ninjago is not exclusive to elemental power. So it's one of those things where it has to exist in the other realms in some extent. I just think we have a lot of different ones in the realm itself. Obviously, being the Spin Jitsu Master's realm, it makes sense that the powers of creation are there. But the thing is that I do think there's another explanation, such as technology, such as all these other different kind of elements. It could just simply be a case of those elements were never awakened in those elemental masters that came before. And if they did pass on during the merge, those powers, like you said, would transfer to someone else, and they would discover that they had those abilities. So it's one of those things where technology may have been in Ninjago already, but it's one of those things where maybe it just simply wasn't awoken by the person who previously had it. It definitely would be interesting to see where the powers of technology came from, for example, but it's one of those ones where I just don't think we would ever see it because it doesn't really serve a point to the story. There's no need to know where technology came from, it's just the fact that Sora has it. But it's one of those ones where it definitely had to be in the possession of someone else beforehand, unless you believe the theory that the merge did create new elements. But it's one of those things where either way, it'd be interesting to know if Sora had it the whole time. Did she have it from birth? Or was it passed on at a later point? Because it's not really exclusive to when the person is born or not, because Zane didn't always have the elemental power of ice. But it's one of those things where it could be. It could be an interesting concept to know where or if they did come from and elsewhere. And is it a different realm? Who knows? But that's the interesting mystery. But I do like it, so thank you, Trackmaster. The third one is going to come from Kavanji? I think I've got that. I'm so sorry if I butchered that. But your headcanon is, Lloyd still has his golden power. If we have been told anything from Season 8 to 15, it's that true power is never lost. I think this is the reason Lloyd can withstand Source Dragon energy. I thought that he will find the power at the end of Season 15 and defeat the Overlord. And I'm kind of with you, but I'm also not. I do agree, of course, it is established that, of course, true power is never lost, and all the ninja in some way, shape or form have lost their power to eventually regain it. But it's one of those things where I do think there's an argument to be said that golden power was never actually lost. There is definitely an argument to be said that, of course, in Season 3, let's track back to Rebooted, we see Lloyd, of course, with golden power, and the Overlord is after it. The Overlord captures Lloyd, and he, of course, zaps a bunch of it from Lloyd. I think there was, like, a very small percentage of it left actually within Lloyd. It was either 5 or 15%, I believe. But it's one of those things where the fact is that Lloyd then transitioned that power to the 4 ninja. And of course, the state of the ninja's power has changed a lot over the years. I've honestly debated doing a video on that alone. But it's one of those things where I don't think the golden power ever actually left. I think it just was dispersed. And I think each of the ninja encompasses a part of that power. Do I think the ninja could go back to the Temple of Light and give Lloyd back his elemental power of creation? Yeah, I do think they could. But I think it's one of those things where I think the ninja acknowledged that Lloyd doesn't need all the power just for himself, and I don't think Lloyd wants all the power for himself. All of the ninja come together as a team and have that ability. I think one day maybe they would consider it, but I think it's one of those things where I think as of now, golden power never left. It's simply just in all of the ninja. But you could look at it the other way, and maybe Lloyd does truly have a golden power still within him, and it has yet to come about. I just think it's one of those things where I just don't think they would have all the ninja with their power and Lloyd with golden power again, because they literally took on the strongest army and made them look like children. So it's one of those things where I just don't think they want to make Lloyd too powerful again, because it would kind of compromise it. And I think Lloyd is kind of beyond the point of creation. I mean, Wu is also technically the elemental master of creation, and he doesn't even use it. And it's one of those things where I just don't think they want to give Lloyd that kind of ability. I think they just want to stick him to his green power. What that power is, we don't really know. But I think that's kind of the enjoyment of the mystery. But I understand where you're coming from. And I do think there's an argument to be said that it could come back. But I think personally, this is my headcanon now. Welcome to Weavy Headcanons. I think golden power is the ninja. I think the ninja are the embodiment of golden power. And I think that's a nice way of looking at it. The next one is coming from Nightshade37. Hello, my friend. And you said my headcanon is that Wildfire hasn't reached her true potential yet. And when she does, she'll be able to cool things down, taking away the heat. I mean, that differentiates heat from fire. And honestly, I'm fully with this. I think that is such an amazing aspect. And of course, having your true potential is one of those things where you've got to find the thing that holds you back. You've got to truly become one. And I honestly think the introduction of Roby is going to be that thing. So I like to think that maybe you're onto something here. If Wildfire does have a moment of true potential, is it going to be able to also cool things down? Because that is a part of heat. You are completely correct. And like you said, it also differentiates from fire. So I think you might be onto something. I don't know if they would ever give Wildfire that kind of development. I mean, she gets a lot as is, but I don't know if they would want to give her a true potential aspect. I honestly thought we were going to see it in Season 3. But I think you're onto something. I truly do. And if you give Wildfire the ability to also cool things down, that does give way for some very interesting concepts, and I think there's a really good point. So thank you, Nightshade. This is a really good one. The fifth one for today is coming from Zeppin. Hello, my friend. And yours is, my headcanon is that Vengestone is the fossilized remain of the Oni. And I actually really like this one. I mean, obviously, everything has to come from somewhere, and I don't really think Vengestone would be something that the first Spinjitzu Master would create. I believe I actually had this discussion. I made a Vengestone video before, and I believe I even said the same thing of, I don't believe the Spinjitzu Master would make something like this, because it's not really something that's good. You know, it's a negative thing. It takes away his power. So having it being the fossilized remain of the Oni may actually be a really good point. And interestingly enough, one of the replies that you did get, Logan Chan, you actually said, following that logic, Chronosteel would have to be the fossilized remain of the dragons. And again, this actually makes perfect sense, because if you think about it, the Oni and the dragon, of course, are the natural enemies of each other. The dragon specifically, I mean, we saw with the Dragon Blade from Season 9, it absorbed elemental power, like Chronosteel actually does. We don't have an outright explanation for any of these elements. All we know is that Chronosteel and Vengestone are rare. I mean, it would make sense if it's the fossilized remain of an ancient species. So I actually think you're both onto something here, and I really like this, so thank you both. And the last one that I want to discuss today comes from It's the Quenchiest, a very long time viewer and recurring person on the channel. Hello, my friend. And you have a headcanon, which is, Dareth only had a dojo because he hoped that the ninja would someday want to use it. So after they stopped, he sold it, leveraging the ninja use, and bought a bar, his true dream job. And honestly, I could definitely see this being the case. I mean, Dareth himself obviously was a bit more of a poser when it came to his martial art. We know for a fact that he never really actually did anything. I'd be curious to see what he actually taught his students. I mean, we see one moment where he tells his students to just attack a stone warrior, and they just body on him. They just pile him. So they don't really know exactly fighting moves. So it's one of those things where maybe we would actually get to see, you know, Dareth not really be the best at being a dojo master. So I can honestly see this being the case. The only thing is that between the dojo and between the bar, he does take on like a movie TV show director in Season 6. I don't know if that's because it's also linked back to the ninja, I'm not entirely certain. But you could maybe just make the argument that he just didn't really have the bar secure yet. But he seems perfectly content in his bar house kind of aesthetic. He was a bit gutted that the Sons of Garmadon took it over, but I do think you actually are onto something here, because we don't really know of him taking on any other role outside of taking on the bar. So I really like this one. Thank you very much. But those are all the theories that I wanted to take a look at for today, and let me know what you think of all of them, because I think all of them have their merits. I think all of them may have their holes here and there. I mean, I discussed it for a couple of them. Not a diss on anyone. Anyone that has commented, thank you so much, because to an extent, I actually agree with all of these, but it's one of those ones where it's difficult to obviously contextualize it, because there's always going to be a detail that someone misses. But honestly, thank you guys so much, and if you have a headcanon, like I said, definitely comment it down below, because I love reading these. There are so many in the comment section that I wanted to include, but this video would be hours long, so I just didn't really want to do it like that. But yeah, like I said, let me know what you think of them all, and like I said, thank you very much to everyone that is commenting on these videos, because I love these community-driven ones. But that is about it for today, guys. Thank you for watching, take care, okay,